You're watching CNA Heroes. Here's Lisa Sweet.
Hello, and welcome to CNA Heroes. I'm Lisa Sweet, co-founder of the National Association of Healthcare Assistants. First of all, I want to thank you for viewing these segments. Continue to share them and continue to comment so we can recognize these outstanding healthcare team members. Tony Henderson Masters, you are missed and thought of often. I go to your Facebook sometimes just to see your photo. And for your CNA service and dedication, you, Tony Henderson Masters, are this week's CNA hero. So everyone, please join me in honoring Tony Henderson Masters, CNA hero. September 29th of this year, 2018, Yolanda's house caught fire with the entire family inside. Yolanda first made it out, but realizing she was the only one who had made it out, she went back inside the burning house for her children and her husband. Moments later, firefighters arrived. Neighbors said there are people inside. They entered the burning house and retrieved Yolanda's husband and children. They were alive. They had all sustained injuries, but they were alive. A few moments later, firefighters pulled Yolanda from the burning house, but tragically, she died at the scene from the injuries she sustained. Louise Sasusa, a CNA at the local assisted living Lilac home, used her skills and training when a male resident choked on food. After several other staff members attempted to dislodge the food, the resident passed out unconscious. Sasusa then ran over to render emergency aid and CPR. The resident then quickly regained consciousness and has since made a full recovery. Azelle sprang into action. He had just recently completed a new CPR class, and he even had the respiratory mask in his backpack when he rolled up on the car accident and jumped into action. Azelle stated she was pretty much gone, so he put her on the ground and administered CPR. Keith worked for at least 5 minutes, all while thinking, I have to get her back. He said she was turning blue, she had no pulse, and he kept thinking, she can't die on me. Paramedics finally arrived and took over, and Azelle heard the words that made it all worth it. They said, we've got a pulse. And Keith thought, my job is done, she gets to live. Judy Barnett, CNA, drove a school bus in South Carolina's Lawrence School District for 9 years. Earlier this year, she was driving students home, her everyday routine, but this day was different. As she pulled out of the parking lot of the school and onto the street, she saw a boy exit the back seat and start running up the aisle towards her. By the time he reached her, her daughter had rushed up saying that the boy had choked on a sucker. The young boy couldn't talk and was quickly turning purple. Judy pulled the bus over and safely secured it. She said her past training as a certified nursing assistant kicked in and she took action. She jumped out of the driver's seat. She started the Heimlich maneuver in the stairwell of the bus. By the time they got off the bus and to the ground, the sucker had flown out of the young boy's mouth, saving his life. Heidi Scaletta, a former CNA and current school crossing guard, was in a dressing room nearby trying on some clothes. While standing in line to pay for the coat, Catlow suffered a cardiac arrhythmia, fell to the floor, and on his way down, he hit his head on a display table. Heidi heard the noise in the dressing room, and she heard the screams for help. According to the Aurora Beacon News, Heidi stated that she hesitated momentarily as she had never performed emergency first aid on a real person before. However, relying on training she received as a CNA, she jumped into action. Heidi described how she could feel the crack of bone when she gave the lifeless stranger 2 hard thumps to the chest. And she also described the relief she felt when his color started to normalize. Today, we're going to honor those CNAs from Hurricane Katrina who stayed to take care of the residents and do the right thing. They didn't necessarily make the headlines. These CNAs didn't get recognized, but they stayed. Despite no running water, they stayed. Despite no electricity, they stayed. Despite no plumbing, they stayed. Because their elderly residents needed them. Cindy was a true caregiver. She loved children and old people alike. She spent 10 years working with children before joining Pinekirk. Employees at the Pinekirk Care Center where she worked said she saved lives that day when the gunman started shooting. One of the employees at the nursing home said that when Cindy heard the possibility of danger at Pinekirk on that day, she didn't think herself out of it. She didn't run. She was their internal first responder.